I think it would have been very difficult to watch footage of Notre Dame burning and not be moved by the sheer magnitude of the loss there. I mean, it was built in the 12th century and is arguably the most iconic Gothic cathedral in the world. Everyone, from my mother to world leaders, expressed shock, dismay, sadness, and some a fundamental misunderstanding of what happens when you launch tons of water from a great height onto a fragile ancient monument.
So horrible to watch the massive fire at Notre Dame. Perhaps flying water tankers could be used to put it out.
There's a part of me that's not surprised at all that the Notre Dame fire has resonated the way it has. Don't get me wrong, absolutely zero people asked to see the selfie that you took in front of Notre Dame on your 2012 Kentucky tour. But I'd like to think that those pictures are a collective expression of grief at the loss of something so beautiful and so familiar. Even the ABC was asking the public to share its memories of the cathedral. Personal loss is one thing, though. Loss of human history is another. Of course, the world is devastated when centuries of art, artifacts and architecture are destroyed, or is it only when certain types of the aforementioned are? At the same time that Notre Dame burned, so too did parts of the 1,000-year-old Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. Yes, the blaze was far smaller and quickly contained, and for that reason, I don't actually think it should have received the same coverage as Notre Dame. But it rated barely a mention. The fear, the grief over the loss or the potential loss of human history just wasn't there. It wasn't there when Sufi shrines were destroyed in Libya and mausoleums hundreds of years old were destroyed in Mali in 2012, or when ancient sites are ransacked for tourist dollars in Central and South America. It's not there now, as reports emerge of Chinese authorities bulldozing a Uyghur mosque thought to be around 800 years old. I know willful destruction is not the same as an accidental fire. It is a far more loaded catastrophe. I get that. And I'd like to think the subdued reaction to some of these events is because no one really knows they're happening, rather than that no one really cares. It's harder to grieve for something that you have no personal connection to, no selfie in front of. No one takes a Kentucky tour to Timbuktu, but then you don't have to take a Kentucky tour anywhere to sense a loss of human history.
Devastating news about Notre Dame. In Australia, this happens all the time, usually for the purposes of mining, development, or, in the case of the 800-plus-year-old Djab-Wurrung birthing trees, a highway.
We tend not to think of ourselves as an ancient civilization in Australia, but we are. And if Notre Dame has shown us anything, it's that we do connect with history, just not our own. I know I brought up a bunch of examples of sacred historical monuments that have been destroyed, but my aim here is not to play some demented game of whataboutery. I actually think folks can care about several things at once, and that one doesn't actually have to derail the other. So I think it's at least worth asking why the destruction of some places resonate with us more than others. It's worth asking why, when IS militants destroyed ancient cities in Syria and Iraq, why there was rightful outrage, but nowhere near the sense of global and personal grief, of solidarity and camaraderie with the people of a nation that had lost a piece of their history. It's worth asking why we feel that some losses are ours to grieve and others not. It's worth asking that when we talk about the loss of human history, which history are we talking about? And more importantly, which humans? Because there appears to be a particular devastation reserved for the sites and monuments inextricably linked to the narrative of a white Europe, of a white empire, the destruction of which we in Australia view as the destruction of our history, of ourselves, of our white narrative, our only narrative, perhaps. That's why we care. And that's why questions like this,
why do you not have the same empathy for ancient Aboriginal sacred places,
are worth asking.